Clase de English, my theoretical and practical development, relevant disciplines, classroom management activities, teaching learning materials, etc., etc. And there are some points on which we could conduct our reflection. Use of English, Spanish, and translation. That's a specific point. Or grammar, or speaking, reading, writing, testing. Several chapters there we can talk about. Reflecting on what we do and then what, when, why, what for, what, okay. Those are the questions about those topics. So, for instance, if I talk about the first point there, how many semesters did I teach in the first level?
3.
3? Oh, I'm getting old here.
Only 3.
Only 3.
What a pity.
He's teaching in
And this question is very important because I talk about 40% in English, and most of the time I used to speak in Spanish. And sometimes I even use translation.
In what sense?
That means I'm a really bad teacher because I'm not giving my students the opportunity to listen constantly to the language.
Can I ask you when do you translate?
I normally do that when we were talking about some utterances they didn't quite understand. They weren't sure about the meaning. And since I'm not in a mood of using so many pictures and icons and I don't know what else, I'm bringing the elephant to the classroom. I take the shortcut, and I say, this is this. My suggestion for my students is always, okay, now you know what you mean when you use that, and now forget about Spanish and begin using the utterance. What is lying behind that? It's the idea that when you learn a language, you learn how to mean and make sense in that language. And I sometimes notice that students are able to say, to babble, to say things, but they don't know what they're saying. And they're constantly asking the neighbor, what's the meaning? What's that? I don't know. Then they take the dictionaries, the electronic dictionaries, and anyway check the translation. So this is something that is natural when you're learning a foreign language, or even when you're learning your own language, your first language, and we call this translation. I remember a long time ago, when I talk about my present is a long time ago. At the Universidad del Valle, the teachers of French used to come with filminas, these little tapes. And they were able to teach anything without those filminas. When there was no electricity power, they wouldn't teach the class because they didn't have how to get it. And the other thing is, at that time, people used to think that you should absolutely avoid translation, because you're teaching them how to think in the foreign language. For me, those are myths. Total myths. I can't think in a language but I don't know what it means
Unless
exactly.
you understand.
I might repeat sentences, I might use certain utterances in order to sort of let the other know some information I have or get some information. But thinking in that language is not what I just come to class, watch these slides and repeat the utterances, and then, you know. What happened was the students were watching the dictionary here. At that time there was no electronic devices like now. With the dictionary here, checking and making awful translations, you know, misunderstanding entirely what was going on. So, I noticed that even when my daughters were learning Spanish, they were all of a sudden, what does it mean? A metalinguistic function that Jacobson talks about, using the language to talk about the language. What does it mean? And you will always find little kids asking for the meaning of utterances in Spanish. Now, the same thing happens in English. So, there is a natural process for me. It doesn't mean that I'm right or I'm wrong. It means that what I notice is that even if I don't give them the translation, they will find a way out to look for translation. Your neighbor, your dictionary, or whatever. And then you get wrong, misleading translation. One thing is to have the old utterance in check, what it means as an entire utterance, and another thing is to look up the word in the dictionary, word for word. So, but my recommendation to my students is, now you know what it means, now you use it without thinking in Spanish. Just use it and now forget about Spanish. So you use it, you know what it means, and now forget about that. And begin leaving a translation behind. It seems to me they learned a little bit. I don't know what they learned or how.
But they did.
It seems to me that it works sometimes.
In my case, I don't like using so much Spanish. I mean, I have a level 1, 2, and I do the mimics, I do the drawing. I Google the images, so if they don't know a word, instead of me telling them in Spanish, which is easier, but I show them the picture, or I let them look it up. They'll look it up because it's active for them. It's more active. More active. They look it up than if I tell them. If I tell them, then they won't. They will just forget it. They never listen to what I say. So they need to do something for themselves. So the other thing is, I believe, or I trust, that their linguistic repertoire is larger than they think. Whenever I speak in English and I tell them and I do the mimics, because I do go for the mimic part, that's part of my personality. They're looking at me, and then I know that they're understanding. I can see it in their faces that they don't need to know every single word, but I know that they're getting the idea. And I know that they're using all their background in English, even things that they don't even know that they know them. They've been seeing English in the supermarket and in television and on the radio and
for
in
years.
songs and for
That's
all their
cool.
lives. I mean, English, if you drive the barber shop, mafia barber shop, whatever, even the hairdresser tries to make it in English, even if it has some mistake. And I believe that whenever I speak, they understand. Whenever they can't say something, teacher wants to know. But when I say Spanish, it's not. Teacher, but try. And they try. They can communicate. Sometimes they make many mistakes in 10 words. But they are able to express what they're trying to say in English. They look for a synonym. They find a different verb. And then they, see, you could do it. So whenever I cut them some slack and I say, okay, this I'm going to explain in Spanish because it's long and whatever. And they start speaking Spanish and they never go back to English. And it's so hard to control them. When you don't accept any Spanish in the class, they know it and they have to put up with it and they look for ways. If you open that little, in my case, if I open that little door, they'll just, pass through it and then never speak English again. Teacher, when you explain in Spanish, no, but that was one time, no, but you did it that time with this one again. No, but, yes. And I trust that they have an important linguistic repertoire, but I don't trust that they will practice, for example, listening at home, or that they will actually, be serious about speaking to a friend. They'll use the time of the class to speak and to listen. They're never gonna speak and listen. I tell them to do the workbook and do the listening exercises. The one that's the exercises that they don't answer are the ones that have the listening. They don't even know what to say. So I decided that I'm just gonna push them in class. And most of them, I believe that they learn a little. I don't know.
Well, this has to do with what they used to call the natural method. That means you should learn
The same way.
second language in order to make the distinction between first, second, and foreign language. Okay, now, when you're in a second language learning situation, the most convenient way to do that, according to theory, is having a natural method, which means talking, because you are living 24 hours a day in the context. And of course, you don't need translation. You have to do just as a little kid does when he's learning the native language. But even though, for instance, when our Colombians go to the States, to get a job or something like that, to make a better living, so they believe, they don't really learn the language as someone who has had the chance to have some formal study of the language could have. And they don't learn the language. They don't become real bilingual people, even though they have to speak under certain circumstances. It's okay. Those are theories, and it's fine. I remember my kids in the States, they didn't need to be assisted with translation. They were playing with the other kids and going to school and using the language.
No, but I use translation to mimics or translation to images, for example. There are some things that you just Google them up, you Google the word, and you have 100 images there.
Yes.
So it's another way of translating. And I do little drawings, and then they remember my ugly drawings, and then they laugh, but they remember the drawing better, I think, than the word.
So
it's also a form of translation. Let's say
So
it's
do
not
I.
to Spanish.
No.
I use Spanish whenever I have no other choice.
So do I. I try to draw pictures, things like that, and mimic and all this stuff. But even though maybe I'm not a good mimicker or drawer,
I wouldn't imagine you.
and so
I don't
so
agree.
Okay, and I'm sort of impatient. It's so much effort, and they might understand what's going on in that situation, and maybe later on they remember, they recall teacher mimicking and doing that, but I'm not sure, not so sure that they really improve their knowledge of English. Yeah, they could go outside and use in that language without any difficulty. So, those are ways of trying to understand what's
Approaches.
going on, approaches, techniques, and something like that. Of course, in a second semester, I wouldn't use so much Spanish. We'll try to talk
So
at
what if-
least 99.99 100% in English. But those kids, some of them come, pretty,
Ah, no, yes.
pretty
No.
and you feel,
Really poor backgrounds.
yeah,
Well,
most of them are.
I'm gonna write I'm gonna share what I wrote. Okay, but first of all, I would like to say that,
But I did
first of all, I would like
I'm
to say that, I used to, speak in English all the time, like 100%. I mean, I never translate or use Spanish. But since I had the seminars with Tim, I mean, because when I was at the university, I mean, it was prohibited, I mean, we prohibited, so we couldn't use Spanish. And during my practical docente, that was part of the evaluation, I mean, you just couldn't use a single word. So it was too hard, and I mean, we planned every single minute in order to avoid using Spanish. But then so it was here, I mean, you just couldn't break that rule. So then when we had the seminar with Tim, he explained that it was part of the process, and it was important. But for me, something similar to what Diana said, it was like
Sorry, to interrupt, but what's part of the process?
of learning the language.
Translation.
Exactly, of speaking. Actually, he said, and I asked him, what about if they are speaking in Spanish? I mean, because sometimes it's difficult, to cancel that. And he said, no, I mean, it's part of the process. They should speak in Spanish and they can start like using English, like step by step. And then I said, he said, why don't you try the next class to speak in Spanish? So I was trying to, okay, let's use it here. I said, no, here, so. So in the end, I didn't use it. And then I tried the second time. I mean, like the fifth, I tried but I didn't feel confident. I mean, like comfortable. Well, I have used it like 3 times, like since he had said that. But it's not like I feel confident using that. But they were so happy, and they were like, oh, teacher, you said a word in Spanish. You couldn't believe it. And you got like how do you say that? The accent. But you don't speak like a Colombian. I said, no, because I didn't grow up here, But for me, it's difficult to use Spanish and difficult to implement that in my classes. Because of me, not because of them.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been trying, I've been applying that, like one word, maybe, but I'm not able to say like a whole sentence. It's just difficult for me to do so. And also, I would like to share with you that, as I said before, I had to plan every single minute of the class, because for my professor at the university, it was not possible that you had 5 minutes left in class. If you got 5 minutes left, you got like 3.5. Why teaching? Because you got 5 minutes left. What are you gonna do now? So timing is very important to me, and like every single aspect. But then I realized that also it was not only about planning, but also that they really wanted to do what I planned. Because if not, you were not able to enjoy that. And I think if you don't enjoy that, you are not able to learn as much as you can. That's what I think. So I'm going to read what I wrote, and I'm going to tell you why. Well, oh yes, I'm good. So thinking about my practice and the methodology I use, I want to start by saying that probably the main one is behaviorism. Its goal is to explain
May I ask
yes,
you,
of course.
since we have a psychologist here,
Okay.
what do you mean by behaviorism?
Well, I tried to use a concept, but really what I wanted to say was like conductism. I mean, like, what do you call that in Spanish? Yes, yeah, but like, I said that in a few minutes, but I want to explain something else. So its goal is to explain the relationship between previous conditions, behavior, responses, and reward, and punishment as well. After reflecting on the topic and analyzing most of my strategies as well as the activities in my classes, this is usually the one that appears. I think the reason is that through experience, I have seen how powerful it can be to help students in their learning process. However, I want to be honest and say that when I started teaching, I never thought it could be such a powerful one. At least from my perspective and from my own practice. Most of the time, students are engaged using that methodology, or the one that I think it's the name, you know. A piece of chocolate, extra points can be the elements used as rewards. However, as we all know, it's not always easy to engage students, and there are different reasons for that. Students get bored, they are not motivated, we run out of ideas using that strategies, and we may repeat the same activities. Therefore, the effectiveness of the method decreases, and you need to understand that only one methodology is not enough for a successful practice. So at the beginning, I didn't really think that it was useful or powerful, or it would be a way to engage my students. But then I realized it was useful, helpful. Students really wanted to participate, they learned, and it really surprised me. So I started to use it in my practice, you know. But it's not always like the best one, or the one that I need to use according to the moment or the situation. So what I wanted to continue working with was like you need to implement others, and I think you should always have a plan B, because even if you plan your class, you know your students, their needs, sometimes it doesn't work. So you just have to have like a plan B and to see, okay, and now what? What can I do? I got one more hour and they are not working, they are not engaged. So I think that's the hardest part of a practice.
I had that experience the class previous to coming here. I noticed
Just a few minutes ago.
quantifiers, and what I do then with the quantifiers, specifically quantifiers, I went back to adverbs of frequency, and I explained that there is not a specific number for usually or sometimes, and then I introduced quantifiers, and I said this is similar. We don't have a specific number, we just say a lot, plenty. What is plenty? And I got them to participate, but then as we move on and start using examples with the vocabulary that follows, we're talking about neighborhoods and introduce compound nouns and how many drugstores are in your neighborhood and that kind of stuff. And then I noticed exactly, say, well, I'm losing something.
Yeah.
And the lesson is not even complete. I don't think that what I had thought is enough, like to let go.
What level was that?
Level 6.
And even when you bring the elephant, as Tito said, it doesn't work for them. Sometimes it's really nice and people, everybody's happy, they are working, but sometimes they are just, it doesn't work.
Here we are in the circus, the elephant and the clowns. Well, it could work to keep attention for a little while. My question about behavior. Do you avoid mistakes when you're teaching?
But from me, exactly, or from them.
No, because when you have when you talk about behavior is applied to language teaching, means error and mistakes are out. Your students cannot make mistakes.
No, that's not the idea.
And that's why then you begin repeating, rewording, and doing all the stuff just to avoid they're making mistakes while they're speaking the language.
No, well, actually.
But mistakes and errors are part of learning, just translation.
No, I would say that my
So in order for you to be behavioristic in a strict way, you have to plan your lessons so that you say this is what they should learn step by step, and now today they are going to work just on this and drill and drill and drill until they become fluent saying what you want to say. So that's not.
No.
The other thing is this, and this is very important. what a teacher does is not to construct an eclectic approach, but a synthetic approach, which is different. Remember the elephant?
Remember, yes.
Okay. This means that when you talk at your empirical object, when you look at your empirical object, which is teaching and learning, empirically you know that. You have your students, you have to teach them, and they should learn. You realize that in order for anyone to speak to someone else, you need to have a stimulus and you produce something and you get responses. But this is describing the surface of the process, and it's okay.
Okay.
And we need that.
Yeah.
We need that because it's not easy to get someone to learn English without listening to someone talk in English, or reading, or trying to speak. That's the empirical practice and communicative practice that you need. So, looking at that aspect doesn't mean that you're behavioristic. It means that you're watching, that there is an empirical situation that you're facing and you're trying to solve as a problem. Okay, and then when we realize what's going on in our learners' minds, we notice that they need the input, the stimulus. Something happens in their minds, they produce something. And I should try to understand what is that's going on in their minds. One thing we know is if you want them to learn meaningfully, they must know what they're meaning when they use or when they listen to that method. How are you going to do those things? We have here our actress. We have an old man sitting there just being serious, academic, using different techniques. But maybe we all are getting to the same place. Different roads.
Different roads.
Because we are aware that what we want them to learn is how to mean and how to generate sense in that language. If I notice that if I translate, my students will continue just talking to me in Spanish and they will never try to say things in English, then I should cut out my practice. It doesn't go anymore, it doesn't help. But when I realize that they learned something today, maybe they wrote some notes in Spanish and they were practicing what I call idiomatic learning, which means memorizing chunks, utterances that are useful, and then trying to produce new utterances, which is the creative learning. Then I say, okay, I'm moving in the right direction for my students, with me. Because that's my personality and that's my way of acting, and that's the way I sort of get to them. But you can go the other way. Okay, here we have a chocolate bar, and whoever is able to come to the blackboard and do this and do beautiful.
But I would like to.
I love that. I love chocolate bars.
Me too. But I would like to add that
But I won't write them.
that it's not, I mean, it's not about making mistakes or errors, it's not about that, but it's like inviting them to participate. So even if they make an error, but they participate, they something like it could be a whole line with 8 errors in the same sentence, but they tried, they got the chocolate. But that's the point, like to invite them to participate and to feel like a part of it, you know?
That's a physical part of the sports.
Yeah,
You're
that-
not demanding that they be perfect.
Exactly. No, that's not the point.
Or you get out of that.
Tito, Nelson, do you remember where Berlitz, do they have a behaviorist, way of
approach?
working? Berlitz, an institute, because there were a lot of drilling activities, that the way they taught the language. was
I've been through
very-
all of those practices.
Yeah, but, that is exactly the behaviorism way, when we speak about behaviorism.
We used to teach English like that 40 years ago.
For example, this is a paper, this is a pen, so what is this? And that's the behaviorism.
Yeah. And repeat, this is a paper. This is a sheet of paper. This is a sheet. This is a sheet.
Let me tell you, we heard about that.
Will you please turn the camera to that so that we can we can record, we can tape those two kids making noise.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's the idea of the behavioristic approach to language teaching. And the idea is, okay, you have to master that utterance before you can move to the next one. Because making mistakes is bad. No, you have to learn perfect language. So that's the idea. Some schools do that.
After so many years of practice, Tito, what do you think about Spanish for real? No fun, for real. Spanish during in English class for a level 3, 4.
It depends. There are certain concepts, certain ideas that are not easy to act out or to show a picture or an icon or something like that. And you need to explain sometimes the meaning and the sense of that show utterance. So I still use it. I sort of learn some English and I'm able to read and all. But sometimes I have to go to the English dictionary, and even though I go to the English-Spanish dictionary in order to understand exactly what's going on. And sometimes I don't agree with translation of it, but I need that. There is a word that I came across reading Bibles. Facetious. Facetiously. And I went to the dictionary and I listened to the word and
Comes from
I never have seen that. And then, okay.
And that's
Facetious.
Close to this.
I just say facious.
What's facetiously? Facetiously is
yeah.
What's the meaning of that word?
uh-huh. I
Uh-huh.
learned that in the Atlantic coast. They're talking and then it's a uh-huh. And that means
Okay, uh-huh. You see, so
facetiously. It's
Facetiously?
facetious.
facetiously.
Facetious.
The first thing you do is, okay, face.
I would have taken a side of an argument or explaining an argument from one point
But this is
of view or
something
something like that.
It's synonymous.
ridiculous, funny.
What is the word?
Okay, now that I realized that I'm one of the only people in the room who knows the word, I'm trying to think of how to definition of it, and my mind is blank.
What's the word in Spanish?
Okay.
Facetiously.
So what I'm trying to say, maybe I'm silly, I'm a little bit dumb, or I am.
what is how's the
Was.
pronunciation of that?
Chistosamente,
Oh,
chistosamente
now
is that
I'm
word?
lost.
WhatsApp, what's WhatsApp?
WhatsApp, WhatsApp.
Chistosamente es una palabra en español.
Me dicen con mucha gracia y con mucha
Hablo chistosamente.
guasa.
Look at the pronunciation of there.
Yeah, let's check.
Facetious.
Que es muy
Okay, now,
Use the other
you
one, the
you see
word
what I
reference.
mean,
Where it
Shimena?
says Collins, to the left, word reference.
Till when
To the left.
should I
Down, down.
keep Spanish
down,
away
down.
from language teacher?
Third,
Oh, I was thinking
down,
about
a la
that.
derecha.
A la derecha.
I always get to the end. of
This
it.
dictionary has two dictionaries, the word references and the Collins.
Okay.
So the
There
word
were one
reference
adverbs
has-
of frequencies. There were one. Today,
That one,
that.
that one is difficult. No, I began telling
No,
them
but
that.
especially those
Lo
adverbs of
está
frequency. They have to learn.
Ah, English tienes. Yes?
Yes.
In what is Collins?
por Dios, no tienes.
And that's the Collins. Chistosamente con mucha guasa. The word reference doesn't have a definition, but the Collins, yes. There are two dictionaries in that website. And now you can put the English synonyms. Click again.
Y si buscamos facetious.
Look for facetious instead of facetiously.
No.
Fa. Ah,
Pero así
Facetious.
Se pronuncia facetious, no facetious.
Facetious.
Gracioso,
It's like
jocoso,
face in the beginning.
ingenioso.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not.
Hear this.
It's strange.
What is your word?
Ya.
Gracioso, jocoso, ocurrente, ingenioso.
WhatsApp was the first one.
What's in Spanish is sort of sarcastic or
Spanish.
Spanish. What's burlón.
Yeah. Yeah, so. Dijo con mucha
Ya
WhatsApp.
pensado de faceta. Ya.
Lacking serious.
Molestando.
Joking.
Ah, it's a noun.
Facetiousness, facetiously is an adverb, and facetious is an adjective.
Facetiousness. Face.
Facetious.
Good, we can look it up to the weather forecast.
Chistosamente.
Lacking serious.
Facetious.
Okay, so that's the idea that one of the processes we follow is translation. Interlanguage, intralanguage, trying to understand something, using synonyms or something like that within the language or translation to another language. We do that all the time.
And do you let them talk in English? I mean, between them? In Spanish, I mean.
Well, most of the time they are working in pairs or in groups and
Mhm.
they're trying to practice what they're saying. They need to know what they're saying exactly in English because they ask me. But my idea is okay. I know that we all, that's something that has been noticed. We all learn our language by chunks, full utterances.
Okay.
At the beginning, we try to use first stages of our language acquisition. We tend to use individual words, but in our minds, there is the whole chunk. If I as a baby, tell my mom something like, tete, what I have in mind is I want my tete. But I'm not able to say the whole thing, but that's up there. And that's why language becomes meaningful for one when he's going through all the stages that we go through. And the same thing happens in learning a foreign or a second language. I want my students to become fluent in the language. I must demand they learn, they memorize chunks, utterances. Teacher, how do you say buenos? Good. And how do you say días? Days. So when I come in, I say, good days. Days good, good days. Okay, no, the chunk,
Exactly the same.
the chunk, the whole
Translating
chunk.
is what words.
That's what Diana Margarita is trying to do when she writes on her door certain utterances. It's not word by full utterances.
That makes
And
sense.
memorize them, practice them, rhythm, intonation, pronunciation, do that. In time, you will begin using that as a model to produce new sentences, new utterances. And that's what they call creative learning. And I remember that when my two older kids were States for the first time, they learned chunks and then all of a sudden they began substituting for words in the chunks. I want this, and then how do you say this?
And you said that they were in the playground and 3 days later they were talking in English. I remember that you told us that. Easy.
That's a natural way, but they were in context there. We're not in the context. So, I do what I feel helps my students learn what I want them to learn. Maybe some of them do, some of them don't, but they seem to do well. I don't know. And maybe nobody else any complaint about my students into the second level for learning something, or maybe you're not confident to tell me, your students know nothing.
But students in the higher levels complain. I mean, I hear their complaints all the time and they complain, no, but the teacher speaks so much Spanish. We can understand the things that he's saying in Spanish, we can understand in English. Why use Spanish when we can understand English? Students feel that they are not being treated as smart when you tell them something that they can understand in English, you tell them in Spanish.
That's true.
And they complain, why? Why Spanish? They can tell me that in English and I understand.
That's true.
I had a girl come in yesterday. She's a level 5 student or 6 student, I don't remember.
Oh, that's it.
And she's like,
That
why?
up there, I'm talking
I
about.
don't know, yes.
I'm talking about this
But
low
you see,
learners.
but you see
Come
Spanish
back.
in all the levels.
But she was complaining
have so
because
many programs, but they
the
don't-
teacher
Did you
wasn't in
speak
Spanish.
Yeah, recommendations, I'm talking about life, and da-da-da. And so she's like, well, all those things that the
No, you
teacher's
can't
saying in
tell me.
Spanish, if the teacher said them in English, I would understand. Why use Spanish? I mean, in the English class when we understand English.
I agree.
They come to higher levels where they understand almost everything and they can produce a lot. So they resent, they feel like they're wasting their time coming to English class, speaking Spanish when they understand English and they feel like we're not stupid, we understand English, why not use it if this is English class? I mean, it would be different if it was a math class, I don't know.
Or something else.
But in English, they tell me. Why?
I agree entirely, totally with you. Once they are able to understand the language, I shouldn't speak Spanish at all. However, when I come here to the seminar, I rather talk Spanish because I feel more
Comfortable.
at home.
At
More
home.
at home. Although I know you understand my Spanish.
But it isn't because you think we won't understand if we just have the discussions in English, or
Yeah.
is it because you feel more comfortable speaking
I feel
Spanish than English?
more comfortable talking in Spanish than in Spanglish. Because I don't think in Spanglish. See, the problem is the concepts we sort of have in our minds when we come to language teaching. Think in the language. Don't translate because you need to think in the
But
language.
you don't think in English, unfortunately.
What's English? I speak Spanish.
No,
that's a different story.
Okay, we are here to discuss linguistics, not that much speaking English.
No, we could do it in either language, it wouldn't matter.
No, I can talk both languages and I feel comfortable in both languages. But I'd rather talk in Spanish because I am home. But I can think in English, I believe so. I wouldn't be able to talk like this, my Spanish, I wasn't able to think to a certain extent, to the point of the topics I'm familiar with. There are certain things that I would be able to talk about, and I don't understand what you're talking about.
Well, there are some things I don't understand even in Spanish.
Yeah, right.
I sit down with the economists, take a look at their mathematical analysis, I don't understand, and they're explaining in Spanish, and I go Chinese, put it in Spanish, please. He's speaking Spanish, I don't understand. I mean,
Okay, but the idea of this point of using Spanish is, at the beginning, you could, but demanding the students do, get rid of the translation as soon as they understand and they know what it can be. That's why it's important for them to memorize things so that they have something to work on and to build on. Because if you, they understand you say this and you do that, but they don't memorize the utterances, let's say grammatical sentences. When they are going to talk, they begin using our grammars, and they begin talking Spanglish, and they write that's awful. Because they haven't memorized.
But there are some things that they have to memorize. The negative, for example, today I was talking to my students about have got, having got, doesn't have. And for days, I haven't a car, teacher. Why I haven't a car? Well, teacher, yo no tengo carro. And it's like, no, don't translate, because the translation is never correct, because we don't have an auxiliary for the first people. We don't have it. So wait, if you want to say yo no tengo carro, you need to say I don't have a car. You need to use the auxiliary. So I needed, the translation at that moment was like, no, because they want to say, I know how a car. Because yo no tengo carro, I know how a car. Yeah? So
Yeah,
there are some times
well, you can forget.
that what you're saying, you have to make them memorize. No, don't memorize the parts or no, you have to memorize the whole thing. The negative is I don't have, or I haven't got a car. Teacher, I haven't got a car, really, I haven't got a car. So that they know the whole thing. Because otherwise they'll go word by word, I don't. No, tengo carro, I know how a car. Teacher, perfect.
And this is exactly what Google Translate is doing.
They want to say.
Yeah, I told them that.
Google translation.
Google
Translator's gotten better.
Put the words together and
It
Has gotten
better.
better. It's gotten better though, actually.
but it's
Oh, no, it's not
There are
good.
more words you
No, but that's the way it
that
goes. I mean, it works.
it cannot be that good as the human brain.
No, of
with
course
all the
not, of course not.
it's
No. But
Because-
the use of the dictionary is part of the process of learning a language.
yes.
Even if it's a Google, I teach them how to use it from the word reference. No, go to the Google. The Google only gives you one translation, and then you are stuck with that translation, and maybe that was not the meaning that you were looking for.
But this is
Look
exact-
that here, in this other dictionary you have, and it gives you cocina, biología, whatever, so you know, okay, where you're talking about what? Food, biology, chemistry? No, I'm talking about food. Okay, so this is the translation that is, closest in meaning to what you want to say. Because otherwise,
This is translated.
Totally true. I had never thought about that like that.
No, there are some things that they need to
Memorizing.
Translating is much more
Yeah,
than
people
putting
think
words
it's
together
memory.
in a
yes.
sentence.
What is it without
But for example,
memory?
I'm
That's
I'm
true.
doing an exercise with
Very
with
true.
a form in
Memory.
German where I let them translate.
No, and if we
their-
repeat them, I mean, like every single class, for
Yeah,
every
we
single,
translate
in
together.
every single context,
And we
they
see
will
what they
remember
did,
that
what
bit.
they said.
Even
No,
us.
no, this is the best because it's hard.
No, you need to counterbalance
Then after
Spanish,
this,
so
they will never
that's why
ask
you need
again.
to memorize chunks. Chunks, whole
Because they
utterances,
understood,
not word
because
by
it's
utterances, so that automatically they come out.
Especially with the auxiliaries,
Yes.
with the do, does.
I need to memorize the whole thing because in Spanish we don't have that auxiliary.
And the
That-
translation process will begin the first levels, but should be left behind as soon as possible. That's why they have to memorize. They know what they're going to memorize and produce and forget about translation. So in our first semester translation should be reduced to the minimum.
I want to say something about the behavioristic approach. One thing is the explanation that psychologists give about how you learn. And at the moment that the behaviorist approach was developed, they believed that everything needed, that all of the information from psychology, since it wanted to be a science, needed to be measurable and observable, and that's why you have a stimulus that you can observe, see, listen, or whatever. And then something happened in that, they call it a black box, I think. That would be a good translation. And then whatever you produced is what you reward or punish depending if you want to increase or decrease. But our system has basis on the reward system that was born in behaviorism. Grades is a reward system. I mean, you say mistakes aren't allowed? Mistakes should be allowed? Well, yes, but our exams, our evaluation system at the university has little room for mistakes. I told my students, none of you corrected the exam and gave it to me so that I could have, give you a better grade. Teacher, we could do that. Well, correct your mistakes. This is an opportunity.
That's a great, a great chance for them.
But, well, it is up to the teacher. The students, if they go to their exam and they check and they write in a different color about why I know how a car instead of and they correct it and they come and tell you, teacher, look, I found my mistakes, I know what I did wrong, this is what and this is the correct answer.
But you know what happens?
Why not give them a better
Results are different in the end. No,
Give them a
it's
better
really,
grade.
no, I do it. Yeah, definitely.
Get them to correct and then give them a better grade.
Definitely,
Why
yes.
not? Give them 2 decimals, 3 decimals, depending on how many mistakes. I mean, don't give them a 5 because, of course, you're getting a 1.5 and correcting with your friend to get a 5, no. But why not? Yes, but the system itself is meant to punish, mistakes. You get a 1.5, I'm sorry, you failed. Or you did great, you get a 5 and a happy face with my students, Yes, so it's a reward.
But I think that the important thing is also it's like a conscious process. So they are not taking the exam, they already got the results, so they can see, they can check the books, and they find out why there are errors there. I have done it, for a while, and in the end, probably, of course, they will have others errors in the end. But the point is, they know what happened and how they can change that. And they say, teacher, I had never done that before, and that's a great feeling for them. I think and it makes a difference, that's what I think. I use almost a class to do that. And I talk to them, I sit with them, what did you do that? And it makes a difference. I think
That's
so.
what I meant when I asked you if you allowed for mistakes.
Ah, no, yeah, definitely.
Because you say I'm behavioristic. I say no.
Okay. Probably part of it.
No,
Okay.
we know
You reward
that mistakes are error. It's part
It's part of the
learning
process.
And we should use those mistakes, those errors. What's the difference between error and mistake?
A mistake is a slip of your tongue, and an error is
Mistake,
you
yes.
learned it wrong.
You took something wrong.
Like which and which. Those kind
Ramon, you were
What
going
kind
to
of
say
witch?
I want with a broom.
What witch are you talking about?
So the only time I've done that, having students take your exam, work with a partner, explain, correct your mistakes, and also explain now what happened, was when I was teaching the reading class in the education masters. And I can, and it's because,
And did it work?
and you know what, I think that nothing I ever did in that class ever worked. But.
Well, probably was in class, I mean, it was not you or the office. Yeah, that
No,
happened.
I have to come to the conclusion that it was me. No, but, and I think that in that, I mean, I'm thinking like, I don't think that doing that with my level 7 and 8 undergrad class, I don't think that that would, I don't know, I don't think that it would have the same results exactly.
But you know, well, in my case, I would say that they never take the time to think about that.
They never take the time to look at their mistakes.
Exactly, and to look at the exam, they just take the exam, I got 3 or 2, okay, I failed, I passed it. So they never take the time to reflect on that. So if you give them the time, probably that's a difference.
No, we do it, but in the project that we develop during the semester, not in the midterm, but still,
Okay,
I don't know the importance of that. I mean, they think it's just, I don't know.
no, I don't
Teacher, but I
agree.
don't understand what is subject verb agreement. What do I have to write? Go and figure it out. I mean, I just circle that there's something wrong, go and figure. But still, I mean, they don't.
No,
But
I don't.
at least having the training, I do quizzes in full, and I tell them you have 2 opportunities to do the quiz in full. The first time, and it'll mark the wrong answers. You won't know what the right answer is because you can program the model to give them, depending on the feedback, the wrong answer, the right answer, whatever. So I tell them you have 2 opportunities to take that quiz in full. The first time, then you go back, you take a look at your mistakes, and then you take it again and you correct it, so that you can get a better grade. This is an easy 5, come on you guys, you can do it at home, take your books, have everything in there, and they take it twice and they usually improve. They go over their mistakes and they say, and then if they can't figure it out after the second chance and they still don't know, teacher, no, in this question I don't know what the right answer was because I did this and then the second time I did this and what happened, I don't understand. But they think about, and I tell them mistakes are a good opportunity to learn. But I think this is something that should be practiced. But they don't know that they can do it. I told them, what happened with the exams? You go over that. No teachers.
I remember once, like 2 semesters ago, I had a student, and she was a good student. When she came to class, she did everything, and then in the end, because
She was ambiciosa, we just
exactly. So, like the last 2 classes, I always ask them, what did you learn? Did you learn something like nice, good, like something that you're going to remember? And so I always make fun of that, about that. And she said, no, teacher, I want to try something, but she never, she didn't speak that much. So I said, what, bro? She said, no, I didn't like your classes. And she said, no, teacher, I learned how to use that, when to use it. And I said, well, it was like level 5 or something. I said, well, but do you think that's important? Too important, teacher. Always I got last point because of that. And I will never forget that. And in that specific moment, I realized probably it was just one thing. And I said, when did you learn that? Teacher, when we corrected the exam. I said, oh, you see? So for me, I didn't really realize that it was so important. I said, no, you like doing that? Yes, we like it. Because we have the time to think, to go over it.
The thing is, the teacher goes over the right answers in the exam. They don't go over the exam.
Actually, I print the answer key.
I'm asking them to do this too. In German, it's another level, of course. But the point is, okay, I can give them the grades, and they did not learn anything because of a grading. I'm always telling them a grade is just to see where you are. You need to do more or less. But if you do not go over your exam and sit down and put it again and write it down exactly how it should be, you will never learn, because the last thing in your mind is what you, when you did it in a way which is not appropriated or it could be better. And really, I mean, this is obvious.
There's
I
the
agree.
importance of Joni's work, noticing. The first step to learn something is noticing.
But for example, probably level 7 and 8 students don't appreciate that because what they correct doesn't have the name of midterm, but class project. So probably for them, it doesn't matter that it has, I mean, it's more important than the midterm, but it doesn't have the word midterm there. So they go and sit down and make the corrections, give it back, but they, I don't know. That's what can they go right there all day. Probably will know their understanding.
A lot of things, structure, the way how to express themselves.
But I have never thought that we could That's
But
what
we
I'm
can-
saying, our grading system is based on behavioristic principles. Maybe it's not all behavioristic and maybe teachers do other things. And there is a cognitive process there that the first steps of behaviorism will cover because of the black box and then you don't have to, figure it out. And you need to have observable behaviors. And there is a cognitive process. You cannot say that someone can learn something without the cognitive process. I mean, that's just, impossible. But the whole grading system is based on behavioristic principles.
And probably more so as we make things convenient for ourselves. Because when you create an exam that
False.
is true, false, that is multiple choice, then it's about either this is right or it's not right. But we do that because if we were to grade what, a hundred written exams, S's, whatever, it would take us a year, and so for our own convenience, we are falling back on this thing which we know isn't educationally.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I
think
mean,
they do.
it has a more limited value.
Because it's not you doing the process, it's only saying, okay, this is correct and this is not.
It's a
But
in
different to
but in the
express
midterm,
yourself.
you're avoiding true and false, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yes, but still multiple choice. I mean, all of the ones that you have the answers there, and you just have to mark, for example, what they do in the final exams. There's a different process between recognizing and
Inferring.
no. Entre reconocer y recordar. I don't know recordar, remember? Because recall. Because it's a different process. When you are when you see a crime that happened, and they tell you these are the 5 suspects, identify which is the suspect. You don't have to remember, you have to recognize. Yes, it's a very simple process. You say, okay, that one.
Well,
So
you
that's
just-
the true, false, the ABC, the multiple choice. You're just recognizing, oh, this one, because all the answers are there. If you are the what of a crime, the observer, no, the witness of the crime.
Witness.
And then you go to the police and they tell you, okay, describe the person, and you have to tell them, okay, the skin was like this, and the eyes, and the nose, and the mouth. It's a different process. It's a process, the process of using your memory to produce something, or to, yes, that is a more complex process. Our exams, multiple choice, and the easy kind that you're saying, and the final exams in Moodle and the whole thing, they're basically for recognition. You recognize the right answer. You don't have to produce anything. You don't have to you don't have to bring anything from your memory to do anything with it because it's there. So it's like
in
5
fact-
suspects that one.
In fact, I want to tell you something about the Moodle. We are doing that, kind of, not recalling, but writing and production. But it takes forever also, because you can't correct those questions there, then you have to go home, check those exercises, and it's like doing a reading exam.
Well, teachers-
And the idea of model exam, well, that's what I thought at the beginning, was kind of a different process type of exam.
The thing is, in the Moodle to have them write, it's complicated. I mean, the grading is complicated and it takes time. Usually for the final exams, we're so easy that.
We're doing it for midterms, for example, with Juan Manuel, with Robinson, but I'm telling you that it's like going back to the paper-based exam. Because anyway, you have to go back and check all that, no? And so at the beginning, I thought, well, Moodle takes time, well, you upload, well, anyway, you have to write the
Depending
exam.
on how you organize the exam, the grading, it should be easy. But she's talking about the written part. I know, the written part, of course, you need to check that anyway. But who else is going to grade?
No, because Moodle at the beginning, when have you uploaded exams on Moodle? You yourself? Okay. So they are exams that are written to make them like true or false, multiple choice, this kind of stuff, yeah? But lately, we have been like making up some questions for them to produce. For example, with the relative pronouns and that stuff. Well, what I'm telling you is that it's coming back.
Are you
That's
still
what I
into the, of course, the teacher still needs to check that. So whenever
go
they
back
produce, you
and
need to
not
check
during
it.
the exam. I mean, it's not like the final exam that you get that grade immediately. No, you have to go back, go home and check that at home,
No, you
and
might-
then send.
For my final exam, still I have to check
their
their, I
writing.
think it's
Writing.
written. Writing.
Right.
But I only have to check that writing, not the rest of the exam. For me, it's better
Right, and that's what, I mean,
in less time.
right, and so obviously for our convenience, it's
But that's the
better.
point, it's for
But
hours.
educationally, for the
So-
students, is it better? And we're saying that no. it's
I
not
didn't do
better.
it in Moodle because of that, I mean, because it's easier for us, but for them it's too hard. I mean, it's harder than in paper,
It's not
that's what I
hard,
think.
it's simpler,
It's
because they
different.
don't have to produce anything, they have to identify the right answer.
But I
It's
think-
simpler for them.
Well, no.
Well,
I
the
don't
grading
agree.
system is different because when you're with the paper base, since you're a human, you kind of, they are, no, but teacher here, you can adapt this and you start like, okay, well, in the Moodle, the answers are there. So yes,
Yes,
no,
but
it's not like black
even
and
some
white.
teachers are not flexible in terms of if they write, she doesn't go and they put the apostrophe in the wrong place, it's still wrong.
No,
The
of
model
course.
won't take it right, won't accept it as a right answer because it is not a right answer. As you're saying, teachers are more flexible and they say, okay, fine, they put the apostrophe, or they, at least she knew what the auxiliary was, and then teachers are more flexible, maybe with the grading. It doesn't, the Moodle is just not flexible, but that doesn't make it easy for the students, or difficult for the students.
But I think, like, I mean, thinking about to be anxious. When they think about Moodle, well, that's what they have, that's what I perceive. Probably I'm wrong, but that's my perspective. So I don't,
That they're more anxious and,
in Moodle.
I know that I'm more anxious. Seriously, I mean, no,
Really,
because I'm, no, honestly, no, not even about cheating.
Why?
I'm so worried that something completely
get
beyond
wrong.
the student's control and beyond my control is gonna cause them to do bad because,
Es que Moodle has so many things.
right, because of all the technology. One thing in the technology screws up,
No internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
the sound isn't working, the video didn't download, right, all of these things. And so, in the final exam, I'm just a ball of nerves. Because I spend the whole time going like, don't screw up, like, don't do something to make the students
Okay.
like that.
Maybe
Because I
they are
hate it,
nervous
so.
about the computer.
I'm sure they pick up on it and they get more nervous.
No, but that's what I asked them.
But I think they don't know that the exam is
Yes,
there.
it's very interesting, but it's tough.
No, but that's my perception. Probably I'm wrong, but that's what I think.
But some of them may be nervous that no, but teacher, the thing is the exam crashes and but those are technological issues. But
Okay.
in real life,
It's just the
exam.
We have to double check my
Have you tried
idea.
correcting the exam out after they take the exam? For example, bring them to the lab and ask them, let's correct it during the lab time, take for.
No, because I only do it for the final exam and I don't have lab, so.
Okay, I've done it correcting the midterm exams on the lab for 10 minutes, and oh, you would get stressed there. Because you can see absolutely there, you have done mistakes, written wrong, you yourself as teacher, when you're uploading the stuff. And
anyway,
checking
the
that.
Moodle, the possibility is that you can get them to see what the wrong answers
Yeah.
are. You can prepare the Moodle to show them the right answers. You
Feedback,
can,
yeah.
there are many, let's say there are many possibilities that they can explore on their own. That they can, just by going to a computer, they can do it.
Well, but what you're talking about, this is completely tangential. But this is why we all need to take the peer assessment process of exams seriously.
Definitely.
And that's why we've been doing it. That's why those of us who engage in it, have to do it. I mean, no one likes doing it. But, I mean, that's why you have to, that's why if you're writing the exam with other people, you need to be critical of each other so that you create a better exam, so that we avoid as many of the stupid mistakes as possible. But even that, but it always happens, there's always something.
It doesn't matter how many times
it's
you
not
have
really-
an exam, when somebody
Always,
starts
always.
doing it, answering it,
Teacher, that is one something.
Yeah.
teacher, here
Ah.
teacher, here the letter.
And you've been taking that for a week.
And 4 eyes have gone over it and then
Yeah.
still a mistake.
I think it's also part of the process. They are the last ones.
The other part of this is that
The-
mistakes should be really seen as opportunity to learn and to go over. Not
And as a
saying,
teacher, to
not
accept.
saying, but we are not gods, we are not gods. So
Yeah,
this is, I think
Where
this is,
teachers- where
we
teachers-
are just person, we are there and we have some more knowledge. Maybe Tito is, I'm sorry.
Beyond. Teachers don't learn from the mistakes. Teachers
Okay,
learn from
beyond
we,
that.
we, all of us, and
Except
There you go.
There's you, which is me.
but this is
Category.
really an important point, without
No,
joking.
of course, I mean, we can't expect
Because,
that.
I mean, everybody, we're person, so it's normal. Please make mistakes, this is what I'm telling my students, but don't stay in your mistakes.
Yeah.
Please do all the mistakes you need to do, but don't do it 10 times, 15 times. Just do it once, do it maybe twice, and then, because this is the idea.
learn from their mistakes unless there is a.
But this is
But
the only
teachers
way to
don't
learn.
mistakes either.
Yes.
Of course, and I
know
can make
people.
mistakes too. So this makes me just more human.
I tell them I love mistakes.
But of course,
You have to make them.
if we have just quite some system which is not.
You're now
Well,
the human.
it has another idea, but basically it's not.
Oh, you don't know what you're writing down, and you write it, and then the other person
That's
reads
just-
it, and then they check it, and then they say, okay, here's the mistake that I found, go again and correct them, and then, okay, did I correct, did you see?
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's not a good exam. Of course, it's gonna be, there's gonna be a couple of things always, there's some things always. But as, I know, but still, we have the process of listening English, where there are several of us, and you're not gonna get it. But the teachers, but you know what the thing is that many teachers don't learn from their mistakes. They hand in the exam with the same
Well, this
mistakes.
is another probably personal.
This
This is yes.
This is a personal.
This is a personal point, of course. I mean, of course.
Because it implies reflections.
Yes.
It does.
I do something during the midterm that I don't know if it's okay, but
We'll tell you. No,
Is
it's not.
Ramon correct in your
but I
midterm?
feel that it makes my students feel a little bit more relaxed or confident with what they know. In every exam, my students can ask as many questions as they need. But, for example, teacher, I am not sure if this or this because this is this thing and this is the other. So I can guide, it cannot be, for example, teacher, I have no idea. Sorry, okay? So they, with that, I've seen that they reduce the opportunity of asking a friend because they know they can ask the teacher. And when they come with a question, they will really say, teacher, this is what I think, but I am not sure. Then I'll find my way to, I don't know, organize the
Just send them
exam.
back to the chair and forget about the questions.
But they don't, I mean, they don't, but they are not as stressed as if
Do
they
you do
can.
that during the quizzes or?
We don't have
No,
entrance
no.
exams?
Well, the study, no, doing study checks, no, only the midterm. That is when they, I think they feel, I don't know, more stressed.
But there is one thing about what you're doing. Just verbalizing.
Right.
Just verbalizing your thought on, okay, this or this, because this and that. They will
yes.
probably find that
Yes.
without you even making a face. Just verbalizing helps them. Of course, if they speak on their own, like, should I write this, and everybody's thinking, of course, that's gonna be complicated.
sometimes when they come with whatever question they have, they come with the answer. So what's the question? And they already know it.
Because they go the wrong answer.
But I don't know if that is.
Let's find
Okay, so
another
what I do in that case, I will tell students, right, in order to make sure that they don't ask each other stuff, whatever, ask me. If it's, I need liquid paper, ask me, you know, or
I also have
if you don't, if there's a word you don't know, ask me. If you're not sure about something, ask me. I might not answer your question, but ask me. And if it's some, and I have to gauge. You know, if it's something, you know, if it's like, what's this word? We talked about that word. Or I'll
No, the vocabulary list, come on.
Or I will, you know, and if they ask about, well, like, usually, yeah, there are students who want to verbalize it. And the verbalizing it is really what they need. They need to say it out loud, and then they, oh, wait, hold on. And I won't tell them the answer. I mean, I'll try to do as much as I can not to.
Not to tell them.
Right. But then there are other times that the students will say, like, I don't know this word. Then the second person who asked what that word means, clearly that was a mistake on my part, which I know is one of my faults of not knowing exactly what words I should expect them to know and what not. Then I'll just tell everybody, hey, everybody, question whatever this word, because those things happen. But yeah, I mean, I always tell my students, you can ask me whatever. I might not answer, but go ahead and ask.
Very good. Now, what's next?
I have a question.
Hollywood.
Sorry.
That's a long silent question.
I have a
So
complicated
many unknown
situation with
questions.
Emily. I have a very nice student. Her name is Laura.
What do you mean nice to me?
Let's keep it simple, nice.
Yeah, what's the meaning of nice?
She tries to be a very good student. She can read.
What is that?
Aficionada, that's-
She's not
Looks like
juiciosa.
it's-
She's not juiciosa, but she tries to do her best when she goes to class. But she has a super big problem. She can read, she understands everything, and she can write, but she cannot speak.
Oh, she's
She
in
would
real
say
problems.
something like this, teacher, is there a go, is there a... I can't understand one word she says.
What class is this? Okay.
And she will do her oral presentations, and she will, before, at the beginning of the semester, she just didn't say a word. Now at least she tries, but she doesn't say anything. I will try to figure out what is it that she wants to say. But I really can't get anything. I can't. And when she speaks in class, all her classmates look at me, like saying, teacher, is it she or us or...
Oh, what's
I don't know
wrong?
even what to do.
Ouch.
I mean, I know we have half of the semester, she's not going to speak. In the rest of the semester, we're gonna go to the lab.
Yeah, don't ask her.
But miracles
But
happen.
she's- how did
What-
she
No,
manage
but it's all,
to
they are in the
write
middle of the semester.
without speaking?
I mean, she can write, not,
Do you know what semester she is?
no, I don't remember. I
Because-
believe she's in seventh.
Because
or
I'm,
eighth.
okay, because I'm more convinced that I have first semester students whose
No, she's not
levels
in
are,
first semester.
Ah, really?
yeah.
No, but the thing is that, at
No,
least
but
if she
she's
says,
been around. for a while.
teacher, hello, yes, no, but she doesn't. She will just make a lot of sounds that doesn't look like any word, not even, and I see her every class and I think, how can I talk to Laura without hurting her feelings and telling her that,
I cannot understand what you're saying.
My question is, does she understand oral?
70% of what I say, she
How do you
understands.
know that she understands? Because she says
I'll
that.
double check or triple check many things, like for example, Laura, dime que entendiste. And she, profe, que tengo que hacer this, and she tries in English and I say, no, dime en español, que lo que entendiste. Teacher, que tengo que hacer esto, 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 y es, no.
Pero si no la dejas hablar en inglés, ¿cómo quieres que
No,
hagas?
the thing is
Dime
that-
en español.
No, she will make the effort, right? She will go like,
And in
Yes,
Spanish,
and-
is she vocalizing?
Yes.
Send her to the lab.
I think John had her for level 7, that's why you
So
left.
this is not.
John had it.
I mean, she's not the best writer, she's not the best, I mean, she's a regular student.
What level is she in?
You can send her to tutorials.
But I don't.
I can.
Tomorrow is that, and I haven't talked with her just because I don't want to have a bad result of my conversation with her in the midterm. That is tomorrow. So I'm waiting for the midterm to pass and then talk to her and figure out, I don't know, conversation, but I know that
Do you
that's
think that- do you
not.
think
Yeah, Diana, does she need to take conversation part of the exam when she finishes, to graduate? To graduate from her career? If she does, how is she going to speak?
No.
The oral activities from the class.
And she tries and she will stand
What
up and
does she want?
the exercise convince she is speaking English. But the truth is that everyone in the classroom is like,
She
Okay,
seems
well,
to
okay,
be,
so-
she seems to be a good candidate for a behavioristic approach.
Yes.
So are you sure that she's?
Repeat after me, repeat after me, repeat after me.
she,
Come
I
on,
understand.
drill, drill,
And
drill.
she understands, I am understanding.
Nobody can.
Sometimes I, no, 100% of the time, I guess. Because that's what is happening, what I said, something, but she doesn't do it.
Greta, send her to the lab, what did you say?
Yes.
Reading is very important, but also go to the lab, tell
Listening.
to organize.
Listening
The
and
exercise,
pronouncing.
only the speaking exercises where she has to repeat, and the computer will tell her no, and then get her to repeat again and no, and
Yes.
get her to repeat again and no.
Yes.
So that she starts producing. The other thing is, maybe going to the conversation club or the music club, if she doesn't have the level, it will be bad for her.
Everybody-
But having
everybody-
what Tito's saying, getting her to
They work
drill,
on the
okay,
conversation.
Ariana, we're gonna stay 10 minutes, the rest can go, you stay 10 minutes, and then for 10 minutes, we're gonna practice. Okay, show me the sentence that you wrote about for the presentation about your whatever.
Facetious.
And get them to repeat,
Glad you're
get her to
ready.
repeat.
Oh, that's
Yes,
the word,
repeat.
facetiously. Facetious.
But I haven't been able to
Facetious.
talk to her about
But
it.
you
But
just need to concentrate, you just need to find a way. You do not need to, for example, with my
Sorry.
students in German, I tell them, look, this is just a computer. Sometimes even if I go and speak, it's not, sometimes
Oh, it's always.
it's not, so
It's always the last
please,
syllable.
give it a try, give it a chance. It's only a poor computer. It thinks in 0 and 1. So this is the first thing they relax.
Does
So
that-
even sometimes we miss, and so they will not go and be stressed by, I'm doing it wrong, so it's a complete disaster. Maybe it could be helping her to say, but look, I think, tell her, you really need to practice the oral part because it's really hard to understand when you speak.
Understand you.
No, but not to tell her, I do not understand anything, or it's just, I think that
Get her to write what she wants
you
to
need
say.
to practice on pronunciation,
If she has
so
a
go to
copy-
the lab.
If she has the cognitive process behind it and she can write her ideas, get her to write her ideas. Use the voice to get her to record herself. Maybe use the cell phone to record herself. Okay, record it and send it to me through WhatsApp so that I can hear it. Yes, first type your ideas and then send them. I can hear them and I will tell you, oh, this is the right pronunciation. Or you can record it. If she sends you the WhatsApp, then you can read what she wrote and record it, and she can listen to it and record it back to you. Like do something. Technology is good. I mean, it'll give you a good hand. You don't have to sit down with her, but if she tries every day, okay, every day you send me one paragraph, and these are the words, and I'll listen to it, and then I'll tell you the recording, and then you record until it sounds like what I said.
Maybe she needs further support, like having a tutorial or something, maybe
We didn't have it for
I can help her.
for pronunciation.
First, she needs to understand the
Huh?
thing
I'm thinking about
that she needs to do. Right, she's not understanding this. if she's going into your class thinking that she's doing it right, and that you understand and everybody else, so she's not aware of a need.
La thing is that at the beginning of the semester, she was not even able to try.
I don't know.
Now
She's trying, exactly.
Of course, this is
She's in the process.
But I really wonder every time I listen to her, what is it that goes in, that is happening in the brain?
But don't tell her. This way.
Don't tell her that.
Right now.
Don't tell her that. Wait.
No, of course.
No, but I mean,
Yeah, do you remember the voice
And then,
activity
we
that
can
we used to, what was the name of that? I want to work on that.
Voice thread, I still use the
Called
voice
just that
thread with my
voice thread.
students.
maybe she
Yes,
needs that one.
and they record themselves, and they use it themselves, and you can
Oh, we
record.
submit that.
Something like that.
That's
good.
to speak with her because I really don't want to.
I think the lab is a great idea.
I can give her-
Bring her to the lab.
This is a process where
And
she
you
can
get them
go.
to upload only speaking exercises. Okay, you're very good at
Listening to speak.
The speaking usually comes with the listening because you listen to it first and then you repeat whatever you're hearing. Or
Listen and
record.
repeat and drill like hell.
Use it.
Yes.
It's exactly what you said before.
Like the.
That's it.
I don't know what to do.
We know that we have different learning styles.
Yes, that's it.
We also have different personality.
No, I know.
Maybe she's shy or
Exactly, exactly.
absent-minded.
Maybe she needs more time.
Yes.
She needs more time, exactly.
Maybe she needs to memorize.
Maybe she needs
Exactly.
psychological help, you know. like,
Yes.
Probably she just,
Actually, sometimes people who don't, I mean, they learn their first language when they were very young, and so they can speak correctly Spanish. But if they are not listening right, they might not be able to learn a second language. Having a language therapist check for your audition is a good thing.
Yeah, but my question was if she
You say that it's
understood
better she does
her English.
understand.
And she said yes. And
They
how
probably did
how
work
did
it out.
Andrea find out that she understood? Oh, I asked her what you understood. She said in Spanish. So she's listening and she understands. The problem is producing it. So the only way out is just to have lots of exercise, you know, and drilling pronunciation, sentences, utterances, substitution, grids, and whatever we used to do when I was young.
Yes, when I was young, when you were my teacher.
Do you do this in class in English?
Do you watch?
To read together and pronounce together? Do you do this or not? Because I'm doing this in class. I think this is also important. That I'm pronouncing it in the right way, for example, and asking them to listen to the melody. Because
Andrea.
if it's complex, you need to put things together and not only read and nobody understands because you do not have any idea about what you're reading. So the way how you're reading
the intonation.
is the intonation and the pauses.
I think it's
What you
the
put
simple
together,
thing,
Especially in English.
shows. Well, I think in all the languages.
Oh my goodness.
Because if you're in more complex, more important that you do the right, yes, the pauses and the melody,
Rhythm, yeah, rhythm.
the rhythms.
Is she able to read aloud?
I haven't,
Good question.
I haven't,
Try
You
it.
haven't checked?
Yes.
I haven't.
Try.
Because when
She doesn't know how to
when
read
she
it.
speaks for everyone in the class is, as in, I see their faces change. And I don't want to create an uncomfortable environment for her.
Well, you could ask her to come
But I will try
to
with
the
like to
department
read.
and check if she's able to read aloud. If she's able to produce sounds, okay, maybe you move to rhythm so that you can give her written sentences and ask her to read. Like
So she reads a aloud, but at least the other students will know what she's trying to say. But the fear is that, but what
Yeah.
happens,
Yes.
the very few times that I have students read aloud, they correct each other a lot.
That
Which
is
they,
why
which they
I-
don't write, which they don't do when they speak. But when they're reading and they say what's wrong,
They're
the
both
students
speaking in
correct.
their
That
head
is
at
why
the
I
same time.
don't
Yeah.
create the
Right.
situation for
Right.
them to do. However, they know it's something not very common to see lately, but they have been very nice when they listen to her. Because they will all, no, they will like, they will all make faces as if they were understanding. So that gives Laura more confidence to keep doing the exercise. But they know,
So they
I don't know,
want
they
to
look at me
help.
like the teacher.
The others want to help.
Yes,
So this is a good situation.
yes, it is a good situation. But I don't provoke the situation. I mean, how moments for her to speak with all
And
the
what
classes.
about the group reading out loud? No, one
I'm going to
person?
try first reading with you, with me, doing exercises to see.
Private activity.
No, but I didn't have any idea of what to do now today.
Now you know what not to do, that's important. That's part of the topics that should be listening.
Rosito, borraste la carpeta de las ideas for writing.
Yeah, sí.
Yes.
Yes.
Ya la
Sabotage.
But be careful with the drop, okay? You erase the things because if you erase something, it's copy paste.
Basically, you
Yeah,
can't erase
sometimes
anything.
You cannot erase anything out of that Dropbox, you can download it.
Oh, no, when you do that, you
In
erase.
Dropbox, if you erase something in Dropbox, you erase it for everyone. So you erase the ideas for writing for everyone, you could collect them, but please don't erase anything from Dropbox.
So,
Not something that you share with us.
okay.
Anyway.